The question is, are you ready for change or more of the same? Get ready for flow, the next level of human performance.
Is I help businesses and organizations invest in their biggest asset, their human capital. So I bring continuous growth and development into businesses, and teaching skills like flow is just one of them. So to me, flow really is unlocking the next level of our human potential. I have no idea what this next decade is going to look like, but I do know one thing for certain. If we don't advance our human potential, we will be left behind in this next decade. Machine learning and automation is rampant, and it's growing faster than people are investing in themselves. And I started off this conversation saying that we need to learn to parent ourselves, and part of that parenting is to continually grow and evolve into more of who we are here to become. The first thing I want to do, though, is really educate you on my thinking and my thought process and how to get the most out of this workshop, right? And the first thing is I believe in these three words: to educate, to engage, and to empower. And when we educate ourselves. We're adults now, so we're doing our own parenting, right? And it's up to us if we grow or we just hang out and be complacent. So education comes from the knowledge and information we bring in, but if we come to the table with preconceived thoughts and notions, we limit what we learn. So I'm going to invite you to play along and, in your own ways, let go of preconceived thoughts and notions. What you think you're going to learn, just let go, right? If you have any judgments that you've had during your day and you've had a bad day, let them go. Because you'll learn better when you come to an open state of mind. The next thing is engage, and when I say engage, I'm talking about you engaging in your education. So engaging in what you're learning, and that, to everybody it looks different. So I will never tell you you have to do things my way. I believe each and every one of us knows what's right for us. So when you engage, you have to find your comfort zone and what that engagement looks like. We can put a picture in our mind, and our body doesn't know if it's pretend or real. So when I say engage, I'm saying engage like you're there. My son went on a trip across the continental United States at 18 with 3 complete strangers he met on Craigslist. And I got to live vicariously through his travels. And to me, that was engaging in his trip, right? I felt like I was there. When he showed video, when he showed pictures, I got to see Old Faithful go off. I got to see Crater Lake. I got to see Yellowstone Park. I got to see places I hadn't been. I got to live it and engage in it through his delivery of it. And by doing that, I want you to find in yourself that place where you feel empowered, where your confidence rises, your courage expands, and your clarity is spot on. And I'm going to invite you to really engage in it the best you can at your skill level. So the first thing is over the last decade, human performance has reached elevations we've never seen before. This is what we call free solo. It's climbing a mountain without gear. It's traveling up that mountain in a time span that's never been done before. People used to camp out on the mountain with all their gear and have these little hammocks. Not anymore. We have athletes and people free soloing mountains they've never climbed before, and even first timers. So the next one is surfing. 50 years ago, bigger than a 25-foot wave was never heard of. It was called a death wave. And we have surfers today mastering 100-foot waves. The next one is tight roping. Used to be, it was saved for the circus. And there was always a net beneath them to protect them if they fell. Not anymore. We have people doing tight ropes across elevations that if they fall, their life is at stake. And then we have aerial displays and fun that people play and do things that take them to new heights and new levels of risk and challenges and creation. Yoga. If you don't explore yoga, consider it. It challenges your body and takes you to new levels, and it internally starts to build your confidence, and your practice gets to come into your everyday life, right? So these are just a few of the things that flow is used for, and every one of those athletes was in a state of flow at the picture that was taken, right? That you couldn't climb that mountain and not be in flow that entire time. Artwork is another one. So if you have artistic creativity and you get into that flow, it just flows through you, right? Poets, writers, authors, musicians, songwriters, singers, I mean, they all enter a state of flow to do what they do best. But it's not just for athletes. It's not just for physical performance. This, if you look at the date of this, it was just 2 days ago that I saw this post. So I called it the flow state. I also said that it's called getting in the zone. I also said it's called a runner's high. Well, there's a new definition that's just been given and added to the dictionary, and it's called beast mode. And it's one that we all know, Elon Musk, and for a CEO to manage 2 enormous operations, the size he's doing from startup and ground floor up, it's next to extraordinary, right? That's just not the natural, normal human potential. But what he says here is the definition is beast mode refers to a state of performing something exceptionally difficult, right? But with extreme power, skill, and determination. A person can unleash their inner beast. And I really call that your inner power. You have it. Everyone has it. But it requires you harnessing it and focusing it in. So understanding the flow, I'm going to play a little video here. And this is a gentleman that really does a great job of explaining the vast variety of ways that flow plays out for us. But right now, check in with yourself. And how have you engaged in each one of the athletes? The painter, the singer, the songwriter, right? Have you tried to put yourself in that mode, feeling like you could be in a state of flow? So continually try to engage yourself as we go through this.
The best definition I have for flow is one by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. He says flow is an optimal state of consciousness, a peak state where we both feel and perform our best. We become so involved in an activity that nothing else seems to matter. The ego falls away, time flies, every action, movement, and thought follows inevitably from the previous one, like playing jazz. Your whole being is involved, and you are using your skills to the utmost.
Maslow's hierarchy of our needs. And if you look at the lowest 4 categories, motivation decreases as those needs are met. Okay, and those are our basic needs, just really for survival and efficiency to live in this world. But if we get to the very top level, it's our self-actualization, and it's really where we need to grow. We need to grow, and every growth we make is motivating us. So the motivation increases as our needs are met. Now imagine this in alignment with flow, because the motivation to be in this state of flow, and all your motivation is going to keep increasing as you keep meeting more needs. Motivated by unmet needs is all the part on the bottom, right? That you're motivated by the needs that aren't met. But flow is a completely different state, and your self-actualization, your real growth, your inner growth, is really at the top of that pyramid. So the grandfather of flow is a gentleman by the name of Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. And he studied what he thought was happiness. Because after World War II, he noticed the depression that was rampant through everyone. And it was despair, it was depression, it was fear. And he really put his efforts to work. When he came to the States, he took up residence at the University of Chicago and headed up the Department of Psychology. But what he found by his study is that happiness comes from our intrinsic goals and growth, not our extrinsic. So happiness comes from everything that goes on inside us. But he also found is that we experience happiness when we're present in the now, right? Every one of those exercises that we saw in those athletes and professionals doing something, they were present in the moment. And that's a real key for this. He also said that flow is a state of concentrated and engagement that can be activated while completing tasks that challenge one's skills, right? So there's a little bit of challenge in there. And in order to do this, several conditions must be met, and we're going to talk about those conditions. Flow really happens when you bring in a portion of both of those, because you have to have some skill in what you're doing, and yet you have to challenge yourself beyond your skill level. This is the really interesting part of flow, is that when we're in a state of flow, internally in our body is producing and dumping mass quantities of all these feel-good hormones for us. And that's why we say that the flow state is that state where you feel your best and perform your greatest. And it's because you're gifted with the added dose of these elements or these chemicals within your body that actually help it along. Electric devices, if you've ever been to a hackathon, and they're hacking in to human performance, it's all about wearables, and it's all about stimulating the brain in ways to force us into these states to be more creative, to be more productive, and that's one reason it's the top choice of Silicon Valley CEOs right now, is they want this performance. If they can get into the flow state for just 4 hours, 1 day a week, they can have performance 500 times their competitors. It's huge, it's dramatic. So these chemicals are important, but I really want to share is that this isn't the only way to produce them. These chemicals are also released in our body during breath work, during meditation, and many other things. I would encourage everyone to take up something that they enjoy that encourages the state of flow. It could be something as easy as yoga, but pushing your limits, pushing your boundaries, pushing your skill level, and pushing your level of expertise will help invite you into that state more freely. One thing we heard from Stephen was the artificial means are out there already. People are already using artificial means. I have no idea what this next decade is going to look like, but I do know one thing for certain. If we don't advance our human potential, we will be left behind in this next decade. Machine learning and automation is rampant, and it's growing faster than people are investing in themselves. And I started off this conversation saying that we need to learn to parent ourselves, and part of that parenting is to continually grow and evolve into more of who we are here to become. Okay, let's bring it back. So who found themselves in a real easy creative mode just by talking about flow and engaging in what we've talked about? Anybody? Yes? Yes? Yes. Yes? Yes? Yes. Yes? So simple exercises that take you outside your normal comfort zone, that allow you to do things that are on that edge, right? The edge of skill that you have, but yet challenge that isn't your normal practice. It doesn't have to be really hard or really difficult. Something like this was fun. It was creative. It allows you to be playful. And there are things that you can do in your meetings at work to really break the ice and go around the room in a fun, creative way and learn more about one another, but yet really set the stage to bring flow into your meetings and your experiences in bigger, bolder ways. So who enjoyed that? Good. Who really hated it? It was hard for you. Nobody? That's good. That's good. No haters. And you notice that flow and happiness go hand in hand. You know, from the godfather of flow, Mihai, you know, he talks about his whole approach was trying to find the way to happiness. But in seeking out how people can find their way to happiness, he found flow. So they do go hand in hand. When we're advancing, when we're moving forward, when we're challenging ourselves just a little bit and then succeeding at it, we feel good. And that's an intrinsic feel good. We did that. We achieved that. So engage in doable tasks that you love. These are just ideas that you can begin to do to put yourself in a position to drop into flow more naturally, authentically, with ease, right? Focus, attention, you know, what you're focusing on. The best thing I ever did for focus was meditate. My results didn't come the first year. They didn't come the second year. I think it was probably 5 years. But I can tell you that I learned more in one breathwork session than a decade of meditation. So I'm a big proponent of breathwork, and I bring it in at a CEO level in my coaching and training program. So I am really huge proponent of breathwork. And I'm not talking just an hour. I'm talking beyond an hour. That's where the real magic happens. But it's no drugs, and you'll be pumping all these neurochemicals into your body at the same time and releasing DMT. So I mean, to me, it's the equivalent of a psychedelic experience and growth all in one breathwork session. But focus, you know, if you're going to be a meditator, you have to focus for that time that you're meditating, right? And to me, anything that causes you to practice focus is going to be your best friend going forward. We live in a world of a multitude of distractions, and our goal is really to focus. So the other thing about it is you receive immediate feedback. Some of us are programmed to pay attention to that feedback, and some of us don't. And I will say that paying attention to that feedback and in a loving and compassionate way is your greatest way to use the feedback. But I have met people who are really mean and hurtful to themselves and have still grown and progressed in life. So I don't know that your approach has to be through love. I mean, if you're a little gruff on yourself, maybe that's your approach. Like I say, every one of us is pre-programmed to a human design that's right for you for this lifetime, right? And I feel like your journey is to get in tune with it, to find your own natural flow, your own authentic self, and how you operate best. So that immediate feedback is huge for all of us. Early on in my career, someone told me that feedback was the breakfast of champions. And so I encourage it and I use it. And, you know, your human nature could be to feel like they're criticizing you. But if you're feeling that way, you're coming from a victim standpoint. If you really came from a leader standpoint and thought what they were giving you might be helpful, you would look at it and perceive it completely different. So to me, that's the feedback. How am I receiving this? Not what did they say, it's how am I receiving it? Because it's me I get to change, not them. We can't change the circumstances around us, but we can change how we respond and react to them. So the next one is to move without worry or distractions. You know, if you're on that mountain, you're certainly not going to be worried. They've already conditioned themselves not to go there, and they have a plan of action if they do. If something happens and they lose their footing and they fall into worry, it's good. They could have just plummeted to the end, right? So some worry is good to keep you where you need to be, but doing it with a plan of action is where you're really going to empower yourself into your next steps. The sense of control, that to me is a sense of confidence, a sense of courage, right? And to me, that happens when I drop in, right? So the minute I engage, I'm dropping in and I'm fully in that sense of control, sense of courage and confidence and clarity. They just come natural with it. Suspended sense of self is what happens naturally, where your sense of self falls away. I mean, that to me is that prefrontal cortex shutting down. And then that lost sense of time or time speeding up is really common. Are there any questions? Are there any comments? Let's start a discussion here for a few minutes and see, making sure everybody's got their clarity on and their understanding thus far. Yes?
Well, if you work at a job where you don't really have a lot of sense of control and you don't, you're not able to engage in a task that you love, how can you?
You don't have to love the task. You just have to be in love in the moment, in the now moment. If you were a bricklayer, you don't have to love laying bricks and working with concrete, but you could see the bigger picture of the overall finished masterpiece. I remember a story early on, and it talked about 3 bricklayers all being interviewed. What's your job? I just slam out this concrete and place a brick here and keep going all the way around. I just keep building up, and the next one says, oh, I exchange my energy for a wage that I get to feed my family with, and it's just a job. It's just a job. And the last guy interviewed said he's building this enormous masterpiece, this piece of art, this beautiful workmanship that the whole city and the whole community is going to drive by, walk by, and admire day in and day out, right? He had a different perception, and it wasn't from his outer circumstances. They were all doing the same job. We control our response to what we're doing. Are you starting to feel different about your question?
Right.
Or are you getting your own answer?
Well, yeah, and it kind of helps that you kind of look at the bigger picture and find that motivation, you know, from as a sense of purpose, I guess. Like,
yes.
I'm doing this job that I don't really like, but my purpose is I'm going to send my kid to college because of.
And for each one of us, it's different. So what that is for you in this moment, but you also might be thinking too, you know, when you get to that point of loving what you're doing, loving the moment, you're loving you, and when you repeatedly find yourself in that place, what you truly love will come to you. It's like that perfect opportunity will land in your lap and come to you because you're vibrating in that higher resonance of yourself, and you're attracting everything you seek is then seeking you. Another question? Yes.
You mentioned breath work is made the biggest difference for you.
Yeah.
In terms of meditating, getting into flow. What would you
No,
recommend?
it didn't make the biggest difference for getting in the flow. Okay, it didn't do that at all. My ability to get into flow was truthfully through my own spiritual practice. It happened naturally and organically, right? So I can leave my house and go for a walk in the park and be in flow, right? I can be doing housework and be in flow. And I'm not a big happy camper on housework, right? But I can turn it into a workout, and I can crank up some music, and I can make it fun, and I can get into it. And when I do, I'm in the flow. It's effortless. The house gets cleaned in record time, and I feel good. The whole time, I'm not working, I'm not efforting, right? So, but the breath work, I said meditation was what helped me focus. I had this monkey mind. It was everywhere. In fact, a decade ago, my middle son asked me in the car driving one time if I was one of those people who was awkwardly uncomfortable with the silence in the room, that I had a need to always be speaking. I thought that was a really good question. I truly couldn't answer it. I truly didn't have an answer. I said, I'm going to think about it on my flight home. But right now, if I had to give you an answer, I would say that I consider you very lucky, fortunate, because I selectively choose from the freight train of shit in my head what I share. And there's a whole lot of stuff up there. But flying home that trip, I started questioning, do other people have the ability to stop the freight train? Do I have the ability to stop the freight train? Can I have a calm mind? I mean, these are questions that we ask when we're ready to grow. My son asked that question not to be mean, right? But if I repeat it in front of him, now he cringes, like, I can't believe I said that. But he said exactly what he should have said. That was what I needed to grow, me. So when I started focusing, when I started doing meditation, when I started growing in my own practice of quieting my mind, I made lots of growth, lots of progress. When I found breath work, in one session of breath work, I evaluated it equivalent to 10 years of meditation. Close the doorway to the more that most of us are seeking. I love that because it really is. I mean, we all kind of want to go to that next level. And out of respect for the rest of the people standing out in the corridor and the next presenter coming in this room, I kind of want to make sure that we have enough time to get in and out of here. So I want to thank you for your time today. And I want to let you know that if you've enjoyed this presentation and you have an organization that could benefit from some of these topics or other topics that educate, engage, and empower, text me more to 314-640-6633, and I'll follow up with you on how we can make that happen.
Hi, I'm Donna Lee Gastrick, the CEO of Complete Solutions. Empowering people is my passion. I do this through speaking, training, and coaching mindset and life mastery skills. I believe that when we educate, engage, and empower ourselves and others, we create a culture of respect and continuous growth and development, which encourages peak potential and greatness in every individual. Knowledge is power, but not until you engage in it. This video is simply entertainment if you do nothing to engage in it. I can help you invest in your greatest asset. Engage with me in a conversation on the topics you seek to educate, engage, and empower your people.